Howdy, this is the Views from the Schott podcast. I'm your host, your one and only host, Tim Miller, and today it is Wednesday, October 15th, 2025, and I wish you a very, very, very happy National Roast Pheasant Day. Today's show continues the 2025 season preview series here on the Views from the Schott podcast. Today, we're talking Ohio State schedule, specifically the non-conference schedule for the Buckeyes. They've got 11 games outside the Big Ten. So today, we will break down every single game they've got. Now, I got to warn you, I uncovered a stat that I think not only will I be the only person to uncover this in the Ohio State sphere, I think I may be the only person to uncover a stat out of anyone on this particular team here on Ohio State schedule across the entire world. You could go college basketball national level. You could go to other beat writers. It's fine. I think I'm the only one to find this. There may be someone in like Bangladesh who also has uncovered this stat for some unknown reason. It's probably just me. And I'll say this much. I shared this stat with someone. I'll just say, shared it with the coach yesterday. Last night, I texted him at 9:32, and I said this stat, and he replied. This stat was so shocking to him that he replied, correct. I was hoping for a lot more than that, and I told him that, and he just laughed at my message, and then we stopped talking from there. So clearly, I'm in there. I mean, you're talking insiders. It doesn't get much in there than that. So, encourage you, as always, follow on Twitter. I think you all do probably a pretty good job of that. Follow on Instagram as well, at The Schott Pod. Subscribe on YouTube. Like the video. Even if you don't watch the video on YouTube and you are just used to podcasts and that's what you listen to, a like always helps. And subscribe there as well. I would really appreciate you subscribing on YouTube, Views from the Schott podcast there. I'd love to get to 200 subs before the season begins. I know it's a tiny number. It's fine. I get that. I'd still like to get there. I'm trying to grow this YouTube thing as well because obviously I started that a lot later than the pod. And then, of course, if you hear me talk about the Substack and you haven't visited yet, just do yourself a favor. It's linked in literally every episode in the description of the Substack.com. I posted another shots sheet that came on Monday. Got a bunch of open, free, completely free articles there as well. I want this to be the hub for Ohio State basketball hoops content only. So let's do that. I think that's it. 5-star review always goes a long way. Shout out the Nut House. Other than that, I think we can talk about Ohio State's non-conference schedule. So here's the good thing with the Buckeyes non-conference schedule. Auburn is not on it. That's it. That's the number one kind of reaction. So we had this, I think, mid-July. I posted, I think on Twitter, actually, hey, this is what Ohio State's non-conference schedule is going to look like. If you just kind of compile all the games for different sources, we have all 11 games that Ohio State is going to have in the non-conference. Then they announced it. When did they announce this, actually? Because I posted an article, their complete schedule. Yeah, I don't know. Will I find it here? Yeah. August 13th is when they actually posted it. So we've known these teams for a while. Same thing as the Big Ten. We know the team in like April or May, and then we finally get times and dates and stuff like that later on. But all these games, none of this should necessarily be new to you. However, I mean, do you know IU Indy's best player? Are you familiar with the roster churn at App State, if there is any? We'll go through all that. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to break down literally every single game. Now, you know, if you've been around this show for a while, you know that I preview and recap every single game for Ohio State. So when we actually get into Ohio State playing IUPUI or Purdue Fort Wayne, for example, maybe a little Mount St. Mary's, when we get there, you'll get at least 30 minutes usually of an episode, me breaking down, hey, here's their strengths, here's their weaknesses, here's their offensive, defensive styles, all those types of things. How does Ohio State win the game a lot? In these non-conference, how would the opponent keep it close? So we'll really get in depth into those games, but right now, just quick hitters, previews in terms of the 11 teams Ohio State's going to play in the non-conference. We'll go from the first game all the way to February when Ohio State will play Virginia in Nashville. So let's get into it. Buckeyes tip off the season Monday, November 3rd at 6:30 p.m. They will play IU Indy in the Schott. I have to warn you, you're going to need Big Ten Plus this year. If you're an Ohio State basketball fan, you're quite simply going to need Big Ten Plus. So this game will be on Big Ten Plus. They get a couple games on Big Ten Network, but then App State is on Big Ten Plus. They've got a couple others on Big Ten Plus. You might only need it for November. I think that's the case. West Virginia certainly will not be Big Ten Plus. North Carolina, obviously, on CBS. Grambling State's on Big Ten. So you'll need Big Ten Plus for November. Sorry. I don't want to do that to you. If I had the power to change it, I would. But I can't, so I don't. So IU Indy, that's who Ohio State will tip off the season against. The IU Indy Greyhounds? No, that's just Indianapolis. I don't know what IU Indy is. Sorry. They play in the Horizon, ranked 355th in KenPom, 361st in Bart Torvik. How many teams do we actually have this year in Division One? Let's check. We're at 365. So IU Indy is one of the 10 worst teams in college basketball, at least according to KenPom. But you ask those in the locker room, I bet at IU Indy, they're going to say, you know what? We're at least in the top 350. I don't know. Last year, they go 10-22 overall, a team playing in the Horizon League. They haven't made an NCAA tournament since 2003. You'd think you have it bad as an Ohio State Buckeye fan, right? Well, you could have not made an NCAA tournament since George W. Bush was still in his first term. That was still his first term, right? I think so. So, I don't know. It could be worse. I guess the expectations just slightly different between IU Indy and Ohio State. However, last year, all these teams, I'm going to talk about their Power 5 conference games. The Power 5, obviously, Big 10, SEC, Big East, ACC, and Big 12. Well, that's how we define the Power 5 here on the Views on the Shot podcast. We used to have the Power 6, but unfortunately, nameless, faceless suits took the Pac-12 away from us because we needed to line our pockets just a little bit more. So they lost to Xavier by 14. That's respectable. Iowa State kind of put the beat down on them, 87-52. And then they decided they were just done playing power conference teams about 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. That's the Simpsons meme of the guy walking in, taking his hat off, hanging it up, and then walking in a circle, grabbing his hat, putting it back on, and leaving. That was IU Indy playing Power 5 non-conference games last year. Ohio State, by the way, just so you know, 3-0 all time against IU Indy. They won 83-37 back in 2022. You may remember that game. You may not, for they won 83-37. You may have been locked in on other things. Not me, though. Definitely not me. So for each of these games as well, I'll talk about kind of key players, other just game notes. Corey Boston is a player that I will mention here who was second team All-Mountain East last season. I don't remember the team he was with. Sorry, I didn't write it down. 16.9 points per game last year, 3.6 assists per game, and 87% from the free throw line. So he gets to move up/over to IU Indy this year. So he's a guy to keep an eye on. Jackson Edwards, another player I'll mention. He played just 4 games at St. Bonaventure last year. He's had a couple seasons shortened by injury. But at Valpo, as a sophomore, he scored 7.3 points per game, 4.9 rebounds per game, and shot 32% from the three-point line. I've got a little fuzzy here on my hat that's been bothering me. It's now been eliminated. So that's another player to keep an eye on as well. I tell you what, there, in each of the past 2 evenings, there has been some kind of hostile environment among the wildlife outside my home. Yet again, and I'm all the way up in our 3rd level here in the attic. It reeks of skunk. And I wish that you would do something about it, listening or watching. I personally don't think it's too much for you to do something about this. This is tough, man. This may be fresh, man. It may have just happened. I don't know. Head coach Ben Howlett is in his first season in Division One, not his first season at IU Indy. Not just that, but first season ever coaching Division One college basketball. He had 8 NCAA tournaments in 8 years at D2 West Liberty. I think that's in Pennsylvania or maybe West Virginia. Shout out Logan County, by the way. I see you guys in Logan County, not that West Liberty. Number 2 in program history in wins and winning percentage. And he's brought 4 players on the roster from West Liberty here to IU Indy. So that's something to keep an eye on for sure. Obviously, those players bought in to Coach Howlett. Obviously, Howlett would see those players as being potential Division One players. So you like the familiarity there. That could be interesting, I guess, for them to see what they do. But this is a coach who won at Division Two. Can he win at Division One? We'll find out. I will say, making the NCAA tournament 8 years in a row in Division Two is very hard to do. So that's impressive. He was doing the right things there. Ken Pom projects IU Indy to win 0 of its 29 Division One games. Now, watch out. Miami Hamilton, I think, is on their schedule. I'm not joking. A satellite campus of Miami, Ohio University is on the schedule. I think it's Miami Hamilton, might be something else. There's another non-D1 game on their schedule. Outside of that, let's just have some fun here. IU Indy, what's your greatest chance of winning a game? So Ken Pom is giving IU Indy credit here against Ohio State. They are giving them a chance to win the game, a 0.3% chance to win the game. So they're saying that if this game is played 100 times, 99 times, they're going to win. And actually, we round. It's going to be 100 times out of 100 Ohio State wins. Their most likely chance to win a game, okay, it's against Green Bay. They'll be home against Green Bay. They've got them losing by 1 point. They've got a 47% chance to win that game. Outside of that, man, their next best shot is against Detroit Mercy at 41%. So Ken Pom, not too high on IU Indy this year. That's not saying I'm not high on them. I'm just saying what Ken Pom is saying. So just be advised. Size shouldn't be an issue as expected for a lower level D1 program. The BIP, we remember the BIP, the betting intelligence platform that we've kind of put together as of last season. I would show you the picks if you were around here last year. If there was any reason to listen to the show, that was kind of it. I mean, we crushed it. We absolutely crushed it. Initial numbers have the BIP are saying Ohio State should be favored by at least 30 points in that game. So this is a game I would expect Ohio State should go out there, take care of business. It's the first game of the year. I get that, but you're at home. This is not a team that you should have any issues with. Ohio State may score 100 points in their first game. Friday, November 7th at 6:30 on Big Ten Network, Ohio State will take on Purdue Fort Wayne. Purdue Fort Wayne, 213th, and Ken Pom, 201st. In Bart Torvik. If you're green, if you're wet behind the ears, as some would say, Ken Pom, Bart Torvik, just analytic sites that I love that will kind of rate teams. May have something to do with the BIP. I don't know. It might be a part of the formula. Last season, Purdue Fort Wayne, what are they, like the Elephants or something? Have you seen their logo? They go 19-13 in the Horizon, 30th in the nation in points per game last year. That's not just solid or impressive. That's really good. I don't care if you're playing in the Horizon. That's good. Head coach John Kaufman is back for year number 12 with Purdue Fort Wayne. Last year, they lost to UCF in a tight game. Probably not something to brag about. They put up 89 points on Penn State. Saddest fan base in sports is Penn State. Every night, when you tuck yourself into bed, actually prior to tucking yourself into bed, you kneel down, you fold your hands, and you say your prayers. Just send one up for those who support the team in State College. The football team is just being burned to the ground, and there's no hope because you got to wait. You literally have to wait basically until this time next year. You have about 11 months before Penn State football starts up again. I assume they won't be who they were supposed to be this year or anywhere close to that because you're rebuilding. That's like a super low IQ, easy, lazy take. But hey, we're talking football now, apparently. So those poor fans. Penn State did win that game, but they allowed 89 points. They took a solid thumping from Michigan as well last year. in general, these teams coached by Kaufman, they've been better offensively than defensively. They've never made an NCAA tournament, but they won 21, 17, 23, and 19 games in each of their last 4 seasons. So they're getting somewhere. There's a reason, I guess, that John Kaufman is still there. Ohio State 2-0 all time. They last won in 2018, 107-61. That would kind of bode toward not the strongest defensively, but it's just one game. Key players and notes in this one: DeAndre Craig Jr. is a transfer from Denver. He scored 13.5 points per game, 3.7 rebounds per game, and had double figures in each of his last 11 games for Denver last year. They got a weird nickname as well. Don't remember it, but it is odd. Another player I'll mention, Corey Hadnot II. Nice last name there, pal. Horizon League all-freshman team, 5-time conference player of the week as well. 9 points per game. He had a season-high 23 points. His season high was 23 points. He also scored 20 against those poor Nittany Lions. He's a volume shooter. He was 39% from deep last season as well. And give credit where credit is due to Purdue Fort Wayne. They kick off the year against Grand Canyon. That's a real team. They may not be Power 5, but they're a real team. Probably top 75-ish, I would say. And Ken Palm and Bart Torvik would be my guess. Then they go play Ohio State. So, tough start to the year. Again, I don't expect this to be all that much of a difficult task for Ohio State. They'll play on a Friday night in the Schott against Purdue Fort Wayne. That's what I've got for that one. By the way, I mean, I'm sitting here. This probably took me about a good healthy, full 2 hours. Wife goes get the haircut. What do? Fire up the Xbox? No. Do some work around the house? A little bit, but not too much. No. We're going to sit here and we're going to look up App State basketball. That's a life I live. I mean, like the video on YouTube. Give a 5-star review just for that alone. Whom else is doing that? I'm going to guess no one. App State, 6:30 on Tuesday, November 11th. That game will be streamed on Big Ten Plus. App State, 194th in Ken Palm. Bart Torvik, not too high on the Mountaineers. They're at 238 in Bart Torvik. Last year, they go 17-14 in the Sun Belt. That's good for 6. Well, their conference record was good for 6 in the Sun Belt. We call it the Fun Belt in in football. I get that. In basketball, I think we just got to keep it at the Sun Belt. Not the most pleasing basketball to watch. Wisconsin really gave it to them last year. That was their only Power 5 game. They closed the year losing 4 straight and lost 5 of their last 6. What does that have to do with this year's game? Absolutely nothing. They last made the NCAA tournament in 2021, went 27-7 2 years ago. Ohio State 2-0 all time. Their last win came in 2017. Dustin Kearns returns as head coach there for the Mountaineers. It's a historically strong defense under Kearns. They were 87th percentile in defensive rating last season, 95th percentile the year before that, 75th the year before that, and 63rd the year before that. So above average defensive rating here for the Mountaineers. Wisconsin did, however, score 87 points on them last year, but hey, look here. All right, listen. I know I listen to podcasts sometimes. I was doing this yesterday, actually. I went for a walk outside. Beautiful day. Got to take advantage, right? Before long, it's going to be 27 degrees as our high, and everyone's going to be dealing with seasonal affective disorder or whatever they call that. And the only thing we'll have is Ohio State hoops playing like freaking Minnesota to give us any solace on that day. Lock in for this. All that to say, sometimes you kind of zone out a little bit. Got to lock in here, okay? App State 2 years ago beat Auburn 69-64. Don't look past these men of the mountains. Aaron Bakes, he joins the team from Georgia Southern. 9.4 points per game last season, 40% from the 3 there down there at Georgia Southern. Big man Chad Moody, he scored 10.8 points per game last year, and that was at Alabama A&M. They bring in Kaysen Jennings, who played all 31 games for South Florida. He scored 7.1 points per game, whatever. However, last year, this is a team with a lot of transfers. So as you look at roster turnover, App State is one of them. However, the team with the most roster churn is still to come. Quick sip here, please. My phone's been buzzing, and it's early this morning, so I'm not sure why we're buzzing right now. Nothing there. Nothing there that's relevant to you. Some things relevant to me, some things not relevant to anyone. Sunday, November 16th at 12:30, Ohio State will play Notre Dame. All right. Here's the thing with playing Notre Dame, okay? The logo is cool, and the uniforms, they're great, and the Shamrock's awesome, but just don't, let's keep this between you and I, okay? The casual fans who love Ohio State football, and we're getting all pissed off about Ohio State's punter because the team's undefeated, and to me at least, clearly the number one team in the nation. If you look at on-field performance, Miami's good. Miami defensively may have some issues. I think Ohio State's the best team in the nation. So for that reason, I think the fan base just has to come together and say, fire and pitchforks to the freaking punter, man. When these fans come in and they see Ohio State against Notre Dame 12:30 on a Sunday, they're going to say, maybe I watch. Notre Dame's going to be good this year, right? Don't tell them the history of Notre Dame, okay? Past 2 years, they've had Micah Shrewsbury there as head coach coming over from Penn State. I was high on Coach Shrewsbury. I love what he did at Penn State, but they're just 28-38 under Shrewsbury, 8-12 last year, and a very, very down Atlantic Coast Conference as well. They crushed Georgetown. I hate qualifying them as a Power 5 school. I think that we should all agree on this show, Georgetown can no longer be considered Power 5. They're just too bad. It's not fair. It's not fair to give Notre Dame credit for that win, and it's not fair to continue to just shove Georgetown in this burlap sack and just keep beating them with the stick. They're getting beat up enough there in D.C. They lost to Rutgers in overtime. Ohio State can't relate. Lost to Creighton by only 4 points. They lost to Georgia by a lot more than 4. So Notre Dame in their power conference games last year, not that great. Ohio State, by the way, is 3-1 all time. There's a lot of there are some questions here. Let me pull this up right now. Ohio State versus Notre Dame basketball history. So the Ohio State site says that Ohio State is 3-1. Maybe it's not here. There's another program on here where Ohio State is 3-1 according to one team website, Ohio State's team website, and then the other team website has it at 4-8 for Ohio State. So I don't know, but according to the Ohio State website, they're 3-1 against the Fighting Irish. Last win came in 2020. You, I'm sure, remember that game. Key players and notes in the transfer portal didn't do too much. They brought in Carson Tout from Northern Arizona. He's a 3-star transfer, at least according to 247 Sports. Marcus Burton, he scored 21 points per game last year at Notre Dame. He returns 99th percentile in points per 40. 3 assists per game, 1.7 steals per game. Volume shooter. That's for sure for Mr. Burton. 38% from deep, and he's just 6 foot tall, 6 foot 0 inches. So didn't stop him from scoring a lot of points. He'll be back at Notre Dame. He'll be someone to keep an eye on. Braden Shrewsbury, yes, the last name, yes. He scored 14 points per game last season. 3 of Notre Dame's top 5 scorers return as well. And then they've got a nice freshman class. Jalen Harrelson, 6'7" wing, composite 5-star freshman. He's a 4-star according to 247 Sports, but top 15, top 20-ish, and composite 5-star. So that's an exciting player. My guess is this team should be improved. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a bubble team or better come March for Notre Dame. Shrewsbury, he builds his teams around scoring, offensive rating, ball movement. All those things typically are pretty good under him. That did not happen last year. But overall, this will be Ohio State's first real test. As you look at the schedule, what is this, just the 4th or 5th game of the season? This will be a real test for Ohio State. There will be a real 5-star on the floor for Notre Dame. They're going to have real talent. They've got a guy who scored 21 points per game in a power conference last year who returns as well. So this will be a test for Ohio State. I wouldn't be surprised if it were a tight game. I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if Notre Dame just messed around and won this game. If they scored more points than Ohio State in this 40-minute period on this Sunday afternoon, I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be disappointed, that's for sure. But overall, Notre Dame, they could be a pretty solid team this year. Thursday, November 20th at 8 p.m., Ohio State will play Western Michigan on Big Ten Network. The Broncos, 292nd in Ken Palm, 253 in Bart Torvik. You may remember Ohio State just played Western Michigan back in 2023. Ohio State won that game. They went 12-20 last year. The year before that, they went 12-20. The year before that, they went 8-23. And the year before that, they also went 8-23. So this is a team on pace to go 16-17, not just this year, but next year as well. They fell to Butler by a clean 20 points last year. They also lost to Michigan State 80-62. So that's their performance in power conference games last year. Key players and notes in this matchup. They pushed the tempo last year. They were 72nd percentile in pace. They scored 11.7 fast break points per game as well. I'm not sure we'll get that again. That number pretty volatile year to year for Western Michigan. But the pace has been high over the past couple of years. So that fits well for Ohio State. That's what the Buckeyes want to do this year. They want to push the tempo. So you play a team that wants to push the tempo too. That's all good. Offensive rebounding has always been a focal point for them. They were 96th percentile in college basketball last year in offensive rebounding rate. So that's clearly something to keep an eye on as well. Their leading scorer transferred to Michigan. Nope, Minnesota. Their second leading... How does that even happen? I'm staring at Minnesota right now, and I say Michigan. I probably just idiot. That's why. Second leading scorer, he moves on to San Jose State. The third leading scorer is now with North Dakota State. If that's a move up, I don't know. Fourth and fifth leading scorers have graduated, probably playing somewhere in like Croatia. Shout out Ivan Nigavan. I bet he didn't expect that. But hey, your sixth leading scorer, Max Burton, he's back, and he's ready to shoulder the load here for the Broncos. In all, Western Michigan loses 8 of its top 9 scorers from last year and all of its top 6. So there's some production to replace there. I'm sure that they've worked very hard this offseason to do so. That is Ohio State quick preview against Western Michigan. On Tuesday, November 25th at 6:30 p.m., they will play Mount St. Mary's on Big Ten Network. Mount St. Mary's, 245th in Ken Palm, 266th in Bart Torvik. Background on them, 23-13 last year. They did make the NCAA tournament. They lost in the first round. Anyone remember whom to? I don't. Donnie Lynn. Actually, I put this in a note here, so we're going to find out in just a few seconds. Donnie Lynn is in his second year as head coach, so year one, you make the NCAA tournament. That's awesome. They beat Notre Dame last year, 98-62. You say that doesn't register to me. Well, that's because that's deceiving because they beat Notre Dame in parentheses Maryland. But it wasn't Notre Dame. They lost to Maryland. They lost to Georgetown. They upset Miami. In overtime, Miami, Florida, not the Red Hawks, right? The Hurricanes, down with the U. They did play in a game against American, in which they won, and a playing game in the NCAA tournament before falling to Duke in the NCAA tournament round of 64. No shame in that. Buckeyes are 2-0 against Mount St. Mary's, last one in 2015. Key players and notes here in this one. Top 5 scorers are gone. They lose all of their top 5, but Xavier Lipscomb is back. He's a top scorer who returned 6.9 points per game last year, 35% from the three-point line, 72nd percentile in defensive rating last year was his team, and really high assists and defensive rebounding numbers as well. That's all I got on Mount St. Mary's. Okay, we move on. Pitt, you're right. You know the meme with the guy in the helmet, and he looks jarred out of his mind. He's on the battlefield. You can see like bombs exploding behind his head in the distance. That is Ohio State playing Pitt. Okay, Friday, November 28th at 7 p.m. When we are out raiding BestBuy.com because we don't go in store anymore, it's sad. It's sad what the Industrial Revolution has done to the United States of America and the world. We can't even go into stores anymore for Black Friday, and it starts on like Tuesday. It's all just sad. On Black Friday at 7 p.m., Ohio State will play Pitt. This game's on ESPN. I'm so pro this game being on ESPN. Don't put my Buckeyes on Peacock. Don't slap me in the face with this Big Ten Plus bull crap. Put me on ESPN. That's what I want. I miss the days with the ESPN jingle, and it's Tuesday night, and they would do like Big Monday and Super Tuesday and all that. And Ohio State's about to play Wisconsin or something. That was a great time, man. Give me back to that. We get Pitt on ESPN at least. 63rd in Ken Palm, 75th in Bart Torvik is Pitt this year. We know last year, 91-90 loss in overtime. Pitt went on a 15-0 run in the second half. Defense broke down, fouls down the stretch, fouling three-point shooters. Pitt would go on to finish 17-15, just like Ohio State. So that win didn't really help the Panthers all that much. Some keynotes and players in this one. Track record of elite defensive play here for Pitt. I will say Jalen Lowe, he moves on to Kentucky. Good for him. He was a player last year who I said, look, I think this guy could play in the NBA after this year. Instead, he goes to Kentucky, maybe on his way to the NBA after that. Ishmael Leggett, he's gone. He's playing in Romania. I'm not making that up. He's playing in Romania professionally. Cameron Corin. Let's go Corin and just move on. He returns. He'll score, last year he averaged 11 points per game, 5.6 rebounds per game. They pick up Deshaun Jackson from, not that Deshaun Jackson from Iowa State. Another pickup from Ohio State. Some other nice pickups in the portal. They should have a really strong front court, I believe. I trust offensively that they'll be fine. I still see Notre Dame as a tougher test in terms of these two power conference games that come in November. But Pitt, offensively, they've been good. They have that track record at this point. With the players they'll have to replace, we'll see. But it'll be late November, so they'll have enough time to kind of figure some things out. In December, Ohio State plays Northwestern and Illinois, and then we get back to non-conference play. Are you pro that or are you anti that? Do you like that Ohio State plays 2 Big Ten games and then we just go back to non-conference? I don't know if I like it. It just doesn't feel right to me. It's a weird order. Saturday, December 13th, time TBD for this one against West Virginia. This one will be played at the Q in Cleveland. Who will have more fans there? I hope Ohio State. Obviously, for a football game, Ohio State would have more fans. I assume Ohio State will still have more fans there. 60, but a good, you know me, I hate neutral site games. That's about the most perfect location you could have for a neutral site game, in my opinion. For 2 teams, Ohio State, West Virginia, go to Cleveland, it makes sense. West Virginia 67th in Ken Palm, 56th in Bart Torvik. You look at background, they go 19-13 last year. Darian DeVree, I mean, just weird. Him and his son, Tucker, he calls it quits kind of toward the end of the season, and we kind of already knew what was going to happen in Indiana, and there's a fire of Mike Woodson chance, and as it turns out, he had 1 foot out the door. He was ready to move on to Indiana, and that's what happens. This is a team that almost made the NCAA tournament, by the way. So weird story. It has nothing to do with West Virginia this year, so I guess we move on. Ross Hodge is now taking over. He won 66% of his games at North Texas in 2 years as head coach. Expect deliberately slow basketball, kind of knockout, drag down slugfest. Ohio State, by the way, 2-6 all time. Maybe this was the one where I was going to be wrong. So let's see. 2-6 all time against West Virginia, which I get because you got Bob Huggins there for a long time. See, here's the thing. This is the one that was weird. West Virginia's site says West Virginia is 8-10 all time against Ohio State. Ohio State's website says the Buckeyes are just 2-6. So which is it? I don't know. Roddy Gale went silly last time these two teams played, and Ohio State would end up winning that game in overtime. I believe that game was in Cleveland as well. Key players and notes in this one. West Virginia has 8 transfers coming in. 2 of those come from North Texas with Ross Hodge. Brennan Lorient and Jasper Floyd. Lorient probably deserves more attention than he's gotten so far. I don't know, in the Big 12 sphere, or in the West Virginia sphere, if they're talking about him a lot. He was All-American, not All-American. He was ACC 6th Man of the Year, AAC first team as well. Talking can be hard when you do a podcast. 11.7 points per game, 4.9 rebounds per game. He had the second most bench points in the nation last year. So he's going to come over to West Virginia with his head coach. Floyd, on the other hand, he scored 9 points per game, 4 assists per game, 3 rebounds per game. Trayson Eaglestaff comes in from North Dakota. You may remember this. He set a Summit League tournament record with 51 points in a game against South Dakota State. You may remember the 51 points. You may remember something about the Summit League last March. This is the player who scored 51 points in a conference tournament game. So you may remember that. Maybe not. He averaged 19 points per game last year, 42% from the field, 36% from the three-point line. This is a real talent. This is a real player that you're going to have to absolutely keep an eye on, and could bury Ohio State. Who knows? 2 minutes left, and West Virginia's up by 5. He hits a 3. I don't know. There's definitely a chance that this team is good. There's no Big 12 preseason poll as of October 14th at about 9:30 p.m. when I looked for this. I don't know what the conference's view is of West Virginia. I think there's so many unknowns, but I think this could be a good team. I think the Mountaineers could be good this year. We'll see what Ross Hodge does. But style of play, pace is going to be a team that slows it down. It's going to be a team that it's a very creative approach defensively that we'll get into when we talk about West Virginia in full. So I don't know. West Virginia could be the type of team that goes 8-12 and they beat Kansas and Iowa State, but they also get swept by like UCF and Cincinnati. I don't know, but they could be a plucky team this year. Not a game I'm overlooking at all. Saturday, December 20th at 3 o'clock, Ohio State will take on North Carolina in the CBS Sports Classic. That game will be on CBS. This is kind of the marquee matchup that Ohio State has in the non-conference in terms of overall logo value, in terms of the colors, in terms of it being on the CBS Sports Classic and all that stuff. I will give my thoughts on North Carolina pretty much now. They're 33rd in Ken Palm, 18th in Bart Torvik. You look at background, 23-14 last year, got in the NCAA tournament. Absolutely no collusion whatsoever. Got them into the NCAA tournament. If you know, you know. Not really sure what to do with Hubert Davis at this point. I think he's a good guy. I think he's a nice guy. You make the national title in year one. You make that game. It's probably the worst thing that you can do. Marcus Freeman pretty much did that in the football. We'll see how things go for him. Expectations go so high. You might get the extension, and now it can become a mess. Okay, and that may feel like a lazy, pathetic take, but all I'll say is this: I'm happy Jake Taylor didn't make the national championship game in year one because it feels like he just peaked and he can't get back there. Even in North Carolina, they missed the NCAA tournament the ensuing year. Then they lose in the Sweet 16 as a 1 seed, and last year happened. So I don't know what to think about Hubert Davis. The other thing with North Carolina, they lost all their major non-conference games last year, other than a win over UCLA. They lost to Kansas. They lost to Auburn. They lost to Michigan State. They lost to Bama. They lost to Florida. You could say all those teams were excellent last year. Even Michigan State, like whatever, but Kansas, yeah, they were kind of down last year, but these were real teams that they're playing. Like, yeah, it's expected for them to lose most of those games. Most, maybe, but all but one, got to be better than that. They lost to Ole Miss the NCAA tournament. That game was tight. It was a really, really good game. Who knows what happens if they win that game and they somehow upset Ole Miss? They still barely made the NCAA tournament. They couldn't win any real games last year, so probably not much. Ohio State, North Carolina last played in 2022 in the CBS Sports Classic. North Carolina wins 89-84 in overtime. You probably remember that game. Bruce Thornton had 17 points, 5 assists in that game as a freshman. Bryce Sensabaugh. Miss you, Bryce. We miss you, kid. Okay? He hit a shot with a couple seconds left to give Ohio State the lead, and then North Carolina ties it at the buzzer. They go on to win in overtime. Overall, I'm low on North Carolina. I have been all year. Last year, my victory lap team that I was low on was UConn. I just couldn't understand the love for them outside of the logo necessarily. I get you're coming off 2 national titles. I was lower on them. And turns out I was right. I didn't say they would be bad. I didn't say they missed the NCAA tournament. At least I don't think I did. But in general, I was lower on them. This year, my team is North Carolina. I don't understand the love outside of the logo. I think if you put this roster and you give it to West Virginia, overall, this is not a top 25 team in the preseason AP poll, but we don't care about the preseason AP poll or any AP poll for that matter here on this show. They've got the 4th best portal class in the ACC, number 22 overall. They get Jonathan Powell from West Virginia. Look, at the time that this was going down, I spoke plenty about him, at least on the Substack and hopefully publicly on the podcast as well. Some kind of more behind the scenes stuff that's not me being pretentious. I just don't remember what I said and what I didn't and where. But spoke plenty about why Ohio State didn't get him. I'm not going to talk bad about him, but I never said he was going to be a splash signing at the 3 for Ohio State. Still a good pickup for North Carolina. Kyan Evans, probably the best get. He comes in from Colorado State. You pick up Jaron Stevenson from Alabama. Henry Visar, who deserves a lot more attention. He comes in from Arizona as well. You lost Elliot Cadeau to Michigan. Ian Jackson is potentially going to be the best player. Like, if you look at transfer of the year talk, it could be him at St. John's. The freshman class is good for sure. Caleb Wilson is a player Ohio State would have loved to have. I believe he visited Ohio State, if I remember right. Isaiah Dennis, he's one that Joel Justice recruited when he was at NC State, comes to Ohio State, continues to recruit him. He's going to go to North Carolina. Derek Dixon, a highly rated 4-star as well. I'm just not sure how ready any of these freshmen will be outside of Caleb Wilson. And for that reason, I look up and down this roster. I look at the overall volatility. Wow, the sunset's beautiful this morning. I hope so. You're not going to hear this at the same time I'm talking, but whoa, beautiful, man. We love Ohio for that. I don't know what to think of Hubert Davis, the volatility, all of those different types of things. I struggle to see the surefire reason why North Carolina is a contender this year. I struggle to see the surefire reason they win the ACC. They feel like a bubble team at best to me. I could be completely wrong, and Ohio State could get routed in this game by 15, but I don't believe in North Carolina at this point. I'm planting the flag now. You can come back and roast me whenever the time comes. I think this should be a great game in terms of watchability. North Carolina under Davis traditionally has been really strong offensively. They've been a really good shooting team in each of the past 2 seasons. They'll push the tempo a little bit. I would expect them to continue to be a strong defensive rebounding team as well. But overall, again, North Carolina, that's going to be the game that a lot of fans look at and say, man, I'm going to tune in for this game. For the non-conference, for Ohio State basketball, I'm all in on football. Ohio State football probably won't play that day, right? I don't think they schedule playoff games for Sunday or anything like that. So, yeah, I'll tune into this game for sure. That's fine. Or this is a Saturday game, actually. But all that said, this will be a game that will get the major football fans' eyes. And I'm not sure how good North Carolina is. So if Ohio State wins this game by 12, everyone may be super happy about it. Again, jury's still out on North Carolina, at least for me. All right, 2 more games here. Tuesday, December 23rd at 2 o'clock, Ohio State will play Grambling State. Tuesday, December 23rd at 2 o'clock. Ohio State will play Grambling State. You heard all this, right? This was the game last year where the Nut House just came at me and tanked my reviews on Spotify because I said, if you're going to be there, we can't even ask. I don't want to get roasted again. All I said was that the standing and the folding of the arms immediately when the game starts, I think we can do more than that. And you know what? I won't say that. I'm not the only one who thinks this. And that's as specific as I'd like to be, okay? There's others who would like more from them. Just saying. 304th and Ken Palm, 263rd and Bart Torvik is Grambling State. This is going to be a sleepy game. It's going to be a sleepy atmosphere. Okay. 12 and 22 last year was Grambling. Among the worst offenses in the nation, in any metric you look at, they've been consistently bad offensively, actually, under their head coach, whose name may or may not be in the notes here, but is still there. They've locked it down on the defensive side, however. They've got back-to-back 20. They've had back-to-back 20-win seasons. Heading into last year, Ohio State 2-0 all-time. Their last win came in 2015 against Grambling State. This is the stat where I texted a coach, and I said, pretty big news, right? Like, this is a big deal. And he said, correct. I mean, I wanted more, and I didn't get it. They returned 0 players from last season. Do you realize how crazy it is for me to find this out? Who else anywhere? Sleepers Media, the sweaty John Rothstein at the gym just being weird. I mean, anyone out there who is going to deliver you the news that Grambling is returning 0 players from last season? That's wild. I'm spending my time 9:30 p.m. on a Tuesday night, and I've got some playoff baseball up, and I'm grinding on Grambling State, man. I feel like that means something. Doesn't it mean something? I guess I don't necessarily... Here's the thing. I want a pat on the back, but I don't want to have to ask for it, okay? Is that too much to ask for, to not have to ask for it? I don't know. I have no idea if this defensive and offensive trends will hold. They actually have a new head coach. It's Patrick Crary. Ever heard of him? Not me until last night. So I don't know if this whole like we suck at offense, but we're good defensively is going to hold for Grambling State. I would assume not. This team is completely brand new. This coach is completely brand new. They'll have plenty of time to mesh. This is a couple days before Christmas. We will all be sleepy in the shop for this game. Hopefully you can go. But I mean, all in all, I don't expect it to be the toughest test for Ohio State. All right. Last one here. We're making good time. Usually my goal is like, let's go 30, 35, maybe 40 minutes on any show. When we get into the season preview series and even on the special guests, summer guest series over the summer, we just keep going and going and going. Energizer could, but won't sponsor. Haven't reached out. Last game, Saturday, February 14th, 8 o'clock, Ohio State plays Virginia on Fox. So just lock the plans in now, fellas, okay? We're going to take our beautiful significant other out, and we're going to say wear your nice, beautiful dress or whatever the case may be. Wear your great, whatever you feel good in. We're going to go to a nice restaurant. We're going to walk around some cool place. I'm going to put a flower in your hair. And then kind of Undertaker style, we're going to rise up from the grave and we are going to stuff you in the car and say, sorry, babe, I got to be home by 8 o'clock. Look, I gave you the greatest night ever. Now you have to watch Ohio State play Virginia with me on Valentine's Day. Virginia 59th in Ken Palm, 34th in Bart Torvik. Those computers are fighting. They're fighting, and I don't want to be in the middle. Background here, they go 15-17 last year. After the surprise retirement of Tony Bennett kind of threw Virginia's season off before it even started. They hire Ryan Odom from VCU last year. Senior guard, Dallin Hall, who comes in from BYU. He said, this was just Monday or Tuesday when ACC media days were going on. He said he thinks fans will be shocked by the style of play this year from Virginia. 21st in three-point attempt rate last year was VCU under Ryan Odom. Much higher tempo did they play with. They want to make offenses work deeper into the shot clock as well. So this is going to be a much different team from the West Virginia of we don't shoot threes and we only play defense and we're going to try to hold you under 60. And if we can get over 60, we're going to win. Much different style of play. So just, again, like, we will get into this game in February, but if you want to look smart at the water cooler, if you're talking Ohio State hoops with any friends, just file this away right now. Hey, Virginia's not going to look like they've always looked like, okay? Ohio State is 0-2 all-time against Virginia. Last matchup was in 2016, where, like I said, first team to 60 wins. Virginia, 63, Ohio State, 61. The Cavaliers won that game. Buckeyes blew a lead in the second half. Jayshawn Tate scored 14 points. Mark Loving and Micah Potter played. So that was where we were for Ohio State. Keynotes and players for this one. Dallin Hall coming in from BYU. Already mentioned him. Jakari White in from North Dakota State. Malik Thomas in from San Francisco. All these players will be difference makers for Virginia this upcoming season. Thomas, 19.9 points per game. He got to the line with unrelenting effort last year. White scored 17 points per game at North Dakota State, and he was 40% from behind the arc. You lose 11 players to the portal alone. Ohio State had interest in 3 of them. A couple never publicly reported, but they had some interest in some of those guys leaving Virginia last year. So there's a bunch of roster turnover. They've got the number 41 freshman class in the nation as well. Chance Mallory, he'll get some playing time this year. He headlines that group. So overall, it's really hard to know what Virginia is going to be this year, but it's going to be a real test for Ohio State. Once we get to February, we'll know exactly what both of these teams are for the most part. So as I rank the toughest games for Ohio State coming into this year, I think by principle, I don't want to put North Carolina first, so I won't. So I'll put North Carolina second. I think Virginia has a chance to be pretty dang good this year. But I also think West Virginia could be plucky this year. I think Notre Dame could be solid this year. Pitt, here's how I'll rank it, okay? I'm going to go number 5, West Virginia, because there's so much variance in what they can get and all the roster turnover. I think that's the 5th hardest game in the non-conference this year for Ohio State. The 4th hardest I will give to Pitt. I see the vision there at Pitt. I see how good consistently they've been offensively. So we'll see. Number 3, I will say is Notre Dame. I will say North Carolina number 2 and Virginia number 1. I think Virginia, the portal class that they bring in, they have some very, very true playmakers there. This game will be in February. We'll know what Virginia is, and Virginia should be meshed and gelled at that point. So that said, I would say Virginia probably the toughest game because by principle, I cannot allow myself to say North Carolina is the toughest game. So that's how we're going to do it here. That's how we'll wrap it up on the show today. Appreciate you listening or watching, or however you took in this show. I appreciate that greatly. We'll be back on Sunday. We'll be live on YouTube, 7-ish o'clock. Actually, I might throw out a poll and see, should I do 7 o'clock or should I do 9 o'clock for these shows? When are you more likely to watch and tune in and listen? We'll see. We'll talk about the Big Ten schedule Ohio State has and kind of preview the Big Ten as a whole. That's going to be a freaking packed show. This one went 50 minutes. That show probably goes an hour. And I'm going to try my best not to let it do that, but we will see. So appreciate you being here. Make sure you're back on Sunday for the live show, or you can just listen on Monday morning, like the rest of us, to the podcast. Appreciate you being here today so very much, more than you could ever understand. For now, I shut up. Before you shut me off, go Bucks.